The grand ballroom of the Plaza Hotel shimmered under the glow of crystal chandeliers, their light dancing across tables adorned with white roses and silver candelabras. 300 of New York's elite filled the room, their designer gowns and tailored tuxedos a testament to wealth and status. At the altar stood James Whitaker, a 38-year-old white American CEO whose name was synonymous with success. His company, Whitaker Enterprises, had transformed him from a scrappy entrepreneur into one of Manhattan's most powerful men. Tonight, he was to marry Sophia Langley, a woman whose beauty and pedigree seemed the perfect capstone to his empire. Yet, as he adjusted his custom tuxedo, a faint unease gnawed at him, like a whisper he couldn't quite decipher. The guests sat in perfect rows, their anticipation palpable. James's best friend and best man, Michael Reed, leaned in, his voice low. "You good, man?" Steady from years of friendship, Michael's brown eyes searched James's face. James nodded, forcing a smile. "Just nerves," he said, though the words felt hollow. He'd dated Sophia for 2 years, a courtship that checked every box. She was stunning, sophisticated, and moved effortlessly in his world of boardrooms and galas. Their engagement had been the talk of the society pages, a union of power and prestige. So why did his stomach churn as the string quartet struck the first notes of the wedding march? The double doors at the back of the ballroom swung open, and the guests rose, their murmurs softening into expectant silence. But instead of Sophia, in her much-discussed Vera Wang gown, her father, Edward Langley, appeared alone. His face was ashen, his steps hurried as he approached the altar. James's heart sank, a cold dread settling in his chest. "James," Edward whispered, his voice tight. "Sophia needs to see you. Now." In the bridal suite, whispers rippled through the crowd, sharp and curious, as James followed Edward out of the ballroom, Michael trailing close behind. The opulent hallway felt suffocating, each step amplifying James's unease. Sophia stood by a floor-to-ceiling window in the bridal suite, her silhouette framed against the Manhattan skyline. Her gown sparkled, but her face was streaked with tears, mascara smudging her flawless makeup. "Sophia, what's going on?" James asked, his voice steady despite the storm brewing inside him. She turned, her blue eyes avoiding his. "I can't do this, James," she said, her words barely above a whisper. "I can't marry you." The air left the room. James's mind reeled, grasping for sense. "What are you talking about? There are 300 people out there waiting for us." His tone sharpened, a mix of confusion and rising anger. Sophia twisted the 4-carat diamond ring on her finger, a gift James had chosen with care, believing it symbolized their shared future. "I'm sorry," she said, finally meeting his gaze. "I'd rather hurt you now than trap us both in something wrong." "Is there someone else?" James demanded, his voice low but edged with pain. Sophia's silence was deafening, her eyes dropping to the floor. "Who is he?" James pressed, the betrayal cutting deeper with each second. "It doesn't matter," she replied softly, slipping the ring off and placing it on the mahogany dressing table. "What matters is, I can't pretend anymore." Her words hung heavy, a confession that unraveled 2 years of plans, promises, and shared moments. James stood frozen, his mind flashing to the early days of their relationship. He'd been drawn to Sophia's charm, her ability to light up a room, and how she seemed to complete the image of success he'd spent his life building. After years of 80-hour work weeks, her presence had filled a void, masking the loneliness he rarely acknowledged. But now, as she stood before him. Her beauty felt like a facade, her love a performance he'd been too blind to question. "I'm genuinely sorry, James," Sophia said, pausing at the door. "You deserve someone who loves you completely." With that, she walked out, her heels clicking faintly on the marble floor. James stared at the ring, its sparkle mocking him. The weight of 300 pairs of eyes waiting in the ballroom pressed down, each guest a witness to his humiliation. He thought of his mother, Evelyn, who had warned him about Sophia's ambitions. "She loves your world, not you." He'd dismissed her as cynical, but now her words echoed painfully. Michael appeared at the doorway, his expression grim. "James Edward is addressing the guests. He's saying the wedding's off." James nodded, unable to speak. The public disgrace was inevitable, but the private betrayal cut deeper. He'd built an empire from nothing, faced down ruthless competitors. Yet this moment, being left at the altar, threatened to break him. As Edward's strained voice carried through the hall, announcing the cancellation, the guests' murmurs grew into a low roar of shock and gossip. James remained in the suite, alone with the crushing reality that his carefully constructed life had just shattered. Outside, the world he'd mastered spun on, oblivious to the man left standing in its ruins. Once alive with anticipation, the grand ballroom of the Plaza Hotel now buzzed with a different energy. Shock, curiosity, and the low hum of gossip. Guests in glittering gowns and tailored suits filed out, their hushed conversations dissecting the abrupt cancellation of James Whitaker's wedding. The untouched 10-course dinner sat abandoned, the 7-tier cake a silent monument to a day that would never be. Nia Carter, an event coordinator with Elite Events, moved swiftly among the chaos, her black uniform dress blending into the background. For 5 years, she'd orchestrated high-society weddings, her efficiency honed to anticipate every need. Yet nothing in her experience had prepared her for a last-minute collapse like this. Nia directed the catering staff to pack up the food, her mind half on her tasks, half on the morning's tutoring session with Tommy Harmon, a dyslexic student whose progress brought her quiet pride. Her dream of becoming an elementary school teacher fueled her late-night studying, a goal rooted in her grandmother's belief that education could change lives. As she restocked a tray of champagne flutes, her coworker Tina whispered, "Poor guy, left at the altar in front of all these people." The bride got cold feet. Nia winced, imagining the groom's humiliation. "That's brutal," she murmured, her empathy stirring. An hour later, the ballroom stood nearly empty, its opulence dimmed by the absence of celebration. Nia gathered centerpieces, clinking crystal vases echoing in the vast space. A faint sound, a clink of glass against wood, came from the antechamber off to the side. She hesitated, protocol urging her to focus on cleanup, but curiosity and concern won out. She stepped toward the door, her sneakers silent on the polished floor, and peered inside. James Whitaker sat alone in a velvet chair, his bow tie undone, a glass of whiskey cradled in his hand. His broad shoulders slumped, and his blue eyes stared blankly at the wall, the picture of a man unmoored. Nia recognized him from the event photos. Sharp jawline, neatly styled dark hair, the kind of polish that screamed wealth. But now, he was just a man, raw and broken. She should have turned away, left him to his privacy. But something in his expression, a quiet devastation, tugged at her heart. No one should be alone after such a public fall. "Mr. Whitaker?" Nia's voice was gentle, almost swallowed by the room's stillness. "Can I get you anything?" James looked up, startled, as if seeing her for the first time. His gaze flickered over her uniform, the Elite Events logo stitched in gold. "Unless you can undo the last hour," he said, his voice rough with bitterness. "I don't think anyone can do much." His attempt at a smile faltered, a crack in his polished facade. "I'm so sorry about what happened," Nia said, stepping closer. She adjusted a vase on a nearby table, a small excuse to linger. James laughed, a hollow sound. "Most people out there are enjoying the show." The great James Whitaker, brought low. Nia shook her head, her braids swaying slightly. "I don't think anyone's enjoying your pain, and you don't have to act strong right now. Not here." Her words, unguarded and straightforward, seemed to pierce his defenses. James's carefully composed expression crumbled, revealing a raw vulnerability that made Nia's chest ache. "I don't even know what went wrong," he admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. "Everything was perfect, or I thought it was." Nia hesitated, then sat in the chair opposite him, sensing he needed someone to listen. "Sometimes," she said, "what looks perfect on the outside isn't real on the inside. People can hide a lot, even from themselves." James studied her, his gaze sharpening as if seeing her anew. He said, "You're not what I expected from event staff." A faint curiosity breaking through his pain. Nia smiled, her brown eyes warm. "And what did you expect? Someone who hands out drinks and nods?" He chuckled, the sound surprising them both. "Not wisdom, that's for sure." Nia shrugged. "I've seen a lot of weddings. Some are love stories. Others are just deals. You learn to spot the difference." Their conversation flowed, unexpected and easy. Nia shared a glimpse of her life, her night classes for a teaching degree, her joy in helping kids like Tommy find their confidence. "This morning, I got Tommy to read a whole page without stumbling," she said, her smile bright with pride. "That's worth more than any gala." James listened, captivated by her passion, so different from the calculated ambition of his world. He found himself telling her about his education foundation, a project he'd started to give back, but had neglected lately. "It's the one thing that feels real," he admitted, "but I've let work bury it." The moment stretched, a fragile connection bubble in the day's wreckage. Nia stood, smoothing her uniform. "Would you like me to leave you alone, Mr. Whitaker?" James surprised himself by shaking his head. "No, actually. Talking to you. It's the only thing keeping me grounded right now." Nia sat back down, her smile softening. "I'm Nia, by the way. Nia Carter." "James," he said, extending a hand. "Though I guess you knew that from the place cards." She laughed, a sound like sunlight breaking through clouds. Hard to miss. They talked until Michael appeared at the door, his expression a mix of concern and relief. "James, the car's ready when you are." James nodded, standing and straightening his jacket. "Thank you, Nia," he said, his voice steadier for being kind when you didn't have to be. She smiled, a quiet warmth in her eyes. Anyone would have done the same. "No," James said firmly. "They wouldn't." He hesitated, then added, "I hope your teaching dreams come true, Nia Carter." She nodded, a strange reluctance tugging at her as he left with Michael. Nia returned to her work, clearing the last of the centerpieces. Her heart fluttered, a mix of sympathy for James's pain and something else she dismissed as impractical. He was a stranger, a man from a world of penthouses and power, while hers was a modest apartment in Queens, filled with textbooks and dreams of a classroom. Yet, as she locked up the ballroom, she couldn't shake the memory of his eyes, lost, but searching for something real. James Whitaker woke in his Manhattan penthouse, the morning light streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Central Park. The silence of his sleek, modern apartment felt oppressive, a stark contrast to the chaos of the previous day's failed wedding. His phone buzzed relentlessly on the nightstand, a flood of notifications he dreaded facing. Rolling out of bed, he grabbed the device, his jaw tightening as he scrolled through the alerts. Page 6 had published an exclusive interview with Sophia Langley, his ex-fiancée, and the headlines were brutal. Billionaire's bride bails. Whitaker's controlling nature to blame. The article painted him as a cold, work-obsessed tycoon who'd driven Sophia into another man's arms. James sank onto his leather sofa, the words cutting deeper than expected. Sophia's accusations weren't just lies. They rewrote their 2-year relationship into a narrative that absolved her of guilt. He remembered their early days, when her laughter seemed to fill the emptiness of his relentless work schedule. She'd thrived at galas, charming investors with her poise, and he'd believed her affection was genuine. But now, her claim that he was emotionally unavailable stung with a truth he hadn't faced. He'd been so focused on building Whitaker Enterprises that he'd ignored the cracks in their bond. Had she been unhappy all along, or was this a calculated move to salvage her image? His phone rang, jarring him from his thoughts. It was Claire, his no-nonsense assistant of 8 years. "James, I've kept the press at bay for now, but Sophia's story is gaining traction," she said without preamble. "The board's already whispering about the company's image. They're worried investors might balk." James rubbed his temples, the weight of public scrutiny compounding his private pain. "What are they saying?" he asked. "That this could hurt stock prices," Claire replied. "They want a statement from you by tomorrow." Before he could respond, his doorbell chimed. His mother, Evelyn Whitaker, swept into the apartment, her silver hair impeccably styled, her navy suit exuding authority. At 68, she was a formidable presence. Her presence, a reminder of the family legacy James carried. "I saw the news," she said, pulling him into a brief, perfumed embrace. "That girl never deserved you. I told you she loved your status, not you." James bristled, recalling how he dismissed Evelyn's warnings as elitist snobbery. "Not now, Mom," he said, his voice tight. "When then?" Evelyn countered, settling onto the sofa. "She's dragging your name through the mud, James. You need to respond." James said, "I'm not playing her game," pacing to the window. The city sprawled below, indifferent to his turmoil. Going public will only fuel the gossip. Evelyn arched an eyebrow. "You can't hide forever. The Wilsons' charity gala is this weekend. Show up, prove you're unfazed." James shook his head. "I'm not ready to face the vultures." Evelyn sighed, her tone softening. "You're stronger than this, darling. Don't let her win." Across town, Nia Carter sat in her modest Queens apartment, a stack of education textbooks on her dining table. Her laptop was open to her night class syllabus, but her attention drifted to the headlines about James. The venom in Sophia's interview felt personal, though Nia barely knew the man. She remembered his broken expression in the anteroom, the way his voice cracked when he spoke of his shattered plans. Her grandmother's words echoed in her mind. "Kindness costs nothing, but means everything." Nia hesitated, then retrieved James's number, which Michael had given her when he returned for a forgotten jacket. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard before typing a simple message. "I saw the news. Just checking in. Hope you're okay." She hit send, then second-guessed herself. Why was she reaching out to a billionaire she'd met once? But when her phone pinged with a reply, "Thanks, Nia. Your kindness yesterday meant more than you know. Surviving? Barely." Her heart lifted. They exchanged a few texts, James's gratitude evident in his words. "You didn't have to check on me," he wrote. "Most wouldn't." Nia replied, "Most don't know how it feels to have the world watching your worst day." Their brief exchange felt like a lifeline to James, a flicker of warmth in the cold aftermath of betrayal. He sat at his desk, staring at the message thread, struck by Nia's sincerity. Unlike the polished condolences flooding his inbox, her words carried no agenda, no pity, just genuine care. He typed, "Can I call you? Need a voice that isn't trying to sell me something." Nia responded quickly, "Sure. I'm free for a bit before class." The call was brief but grounding. Nia's calm and steady voice pulled James from the edge of his spiraling thoughts. She spoke of her day, grading papers for her teaching course, prepping for a tutoring session, and he envied her clarity of purpose. "You love teaching, don't you?" he asked. "More than anything," Nia said, her smile audible. "Helping a kid believe in themselves? That's everything." James shared a memory of his own, a teacher who'd seen past his struggles with reading, planting the seed for his education foundation. "I've let that project slide," he admitted. "Too many board meetings." Nia's gentle nudge, "Maybe it's time to get back to it," stayed with him long after they hung up. As Nia gathered her books for class, she felt a flutter of something unfamiliar. James was a stranger, yet their conversation had felt effortless, like talking to an old friend. She pushed the thought aside, reminding herself of their vastly different worlds. He was a CEO, his life splashed across gossip columns. She was a coordinator scraping by, her dreams tied to a classroom. Still, as she locked her apartment door, she couldn't shake the warmth of his voice, the way he'd listened, as if her words mattered. For James, alone in his penthouse, Nia's call was a beacon in the storm, a reminder that not everyone saw him as a headline. The media frenzy might rage on, but he felt a spark of hope for the first time since the altar. James Whitaker stepped out of his sleek black town car, the late afternoon sun glinting off the Manhattan skyline. He'd traded his usual tailored suit for dark slacks and a navy sweater, a deliberate choice to shed the CEO persona that clung to him like a second skin. The small coffee shop near Nia Carter's event office in Midtown was unassuming, its faded awning and chalkboard menu a stark contrast to the upscale bistros he frequented. Yet, as he pushed open the door, the scent of roasted coffee and the soft hum of conversation felt like a refuge from the media storm still raging after Sophia's betrayal. Nia sat at a corner table, her textbooks neatly stacked beside a steaming latte. Out of her elite events uniform, she wore jeans and a teal blouse that caught the light, her braid pulled back to reveal a warm, unguarded smile. James felt his tension ease as their eyes met. "You made it," Nia said, her voice teasing but kind. "You might get lost without a boardroom to navigate." James chuckled, sliding into the chair opposite her. "I'm not that out of touch," he said, though the simplicity of the setting made him question how true that was. Their conversation flowed effortlessly, as if picking up where they'd left off in the plaza's antechamber. Nia spoke of her morning tutoring session with Tommy Harmon, a student whose dyslexia had made reading a battle. She said he nailed a whole chapter today, her eyes lighting up. Watching him realize he's not stupid. "That's why I want to teach." James nodded, captivated by her passion. He shared a piece of his world, mentioning his education foundation, which funded scholarships for underprivileged kids. "It's the one thing I do that doesn't feel like a transaction," he admitted. "But lately, it's been buried under contracts and board meetings." Nia tilted her head, studying him. "Sounds like you need to reconnect with it. Why'd you start it in the first place?" James paused, her question stirring a memory. "A teacher in 5th grade saw I was struggling, reading, mostly. She stayed late and helped me figure it out. Changed everything." Nia smiled. "See? That's the power of teaching. One person can shift your whole world." Her words lingered, and James realized she was doing the same for him. offering a perspective untainted by his usual circle's ambitions. The coffee shop grew busier, and James noticed a few patrons glancing their way, their curiosity subtle but unmistakable. A woman at a nearby table whispered to her companion, her eyes flicking between James's polished demeanor and Nia's casual warmth. The attention, though fleeting, reminded him of the world outside this moment, a world that scrutinized every move. Nia seemed oblivious, laughing as she recounted a story about Tommy mispronouncing catastrophe as catastrophe. Her ease disarmed him, a balm against the sting of Sophia's headlines. Later that day, James's phone buzzed with a headline that reignited his anger. Sophia Langley, engaged to rival CEO Ethan Caldwell. The news confirmed her affair, a betrayal that cut deeper than the canceled wedding. He texted Nia without thinking. Saw the news about Sophia. Not my best day. Are you free? Her reply came quickly. Meet me at the park near my office. Fountain. 20 minutes. James marveled at her willingness to drop everything, starkly contrasting with Sophia's calculated distance. At the park, Nia arrived under a large umbrella, raindrops dotting her jacket. She carried a paper bag, her smile bright despite the drizzle. Comfort food, she said, handing it to him. My grandmother swore by it for bad days. Inside were warm chocolate chip cookies, scent wrapping James in unexpected warmth. They found a bench under a tree, the rain a soft patter above. James said you didn't have to do this, biting into a cookie. I know, Nia replied, her eyes meeting his. But no one should face betrayal alone. James opened up, the words spilling out. Sophia and I thought we were solid. She fits my world. Galas, investors, and all of it. But it was a performance. I see that now. Nia listened, her silence inviting. Sometimes, she said, we miss the signs because we want the story to be true. Her insight, drawn from her past, a relationship crumbling under unspoken truths, resonated with James. He shared more about his foundation and how its early days felt like a rebellion against his father's profit-driven legacy. I want to get back to that, he said, something real. The rain slowed, and passers-by cast curious glances, some lingering longer than necessary. James sensed the weight of their stares, a reminder of the social chasm between his polished world and Nia's grounded one. Yet Nia's presence grounded him, her laughter cutting through his pain. He said, "You're not what I expected," echoing their first meeting. Nia grinned. Good. I'd hate to be predictable. She paused, then added, We're just friends, right? You're still healing. James nodded, though a part of him resisted the label. Friends, he agreed, but his eyes held hers a moment longer. As they parted, Nia heading to her night class and James to his penthouse, he felt a shift. Nia wasn't just a kind stranger. She was a spark, illuminating a path he hadn't known he needed. Walking to the subway, Nia pushed down the flutter in her chest. James was a man in pain, his life a whirlwind of scrutiny she'd never known. Yet his vulnerability, his interest in her world, felt like something worth holding on to, if only for a moment. The city hummed around them, oblivious to the quiet connection taking root, one that would soon challenge every boundary they knew. The late afternoon sun cast long shadows across the modest streets of Queens as James Whitaker's town car pulled up to a small brick house with a neatly trimmed lawn. Sitting beside him, Nia Carter fidgeted with the strap of her bag, her usual confidence tinged with nerves. Just be yourself, she said, her voice firm but warm. My family's loud but good-hearted. Don't mention your watch probably costs more than their mortgage. James chuckled, smoothing his casual button-down shirt. "I'll try to keep my billionaire charm in check," he teased, though his nerves fluttered. This wasn't a boardroom or a gala. This was Nia's world, and he wanted to belong, even for a night. Inside, the house buzzed with life. Tasha, Nia's sister, opened the door. Her nurse's scrubs swapped for a bright yellow sweater that matched her infectious grin. "So, you're the famous James Whitaker," she said, her eyes sparkling with mischief. "I was starting to think Nia made you up." Nia rolled her eyes, nudging her sister. "Tasha, be nice." Tasha laughed, ushering them into a cozy living room filled with colorful throw pillows and family photos. The aroma of fried chicken and cornbread wafted from the kitchen, starkly contrasting the sterile elegance of James's penthouse dinners. Tasha's husband, Derek, a high school math teacher, greeted James with a firm handshake. Their kids, Zoe, 8, and Malik, 10, barreled in, stopping short at the sight of James. "Are you a billionaire?" Malik asked bluntly, his basketball tucked under his arm. "Malik!" Tasha scolded, but James grinned. "I do okay," he said, keeping it light. "But I hear you're a pro at basketball. That's way cooler." Malik's skepticism softened, and Zoe tugged at Nia's hand, whispering loudly, "He's tall, Aunt Nia." Dinner was a whirlwind of chaos and warmth. Plates clinked, stories overlapped, and laughter filled the air. Tasha recounted her day at the hospital, where she'd calmed a nervous patient before surgery, and her pride in her work was evident. Derek shared a tale of a student finally mastering algebra, his passion mirroring Nia's for teaching. James listened, captivated by the easy love that bound this family, so different from his childhood's formal, agenda-driven meals. His father's dinners had been more like board meetings and strategy sessions for Whitaker Enterprises. This felt like a home. Between bites of cornbread, Zoe grilled James about his job. "Do you make iPhones?" she asked, her eyes wide. James laughed. "No, but I help companies work better. And I fund schools, so kids like you can have cool teachers like your aunt." Nia smiled, her heart swelling at his effort to connect. Malik, warming up, challenged James to a basketball game in the driveway after dinner. "You're on," James said, rolling up his sleeves. Tasha leaned toward Nia, whispering, "He's trying hard. I like him." Outside, James dribbled awkwardly at first, drawing giggles from Malik and Zoe. But he listened as Malik showed him a crossover move, his patience winning the boy over. Nia watched from the porch, her nerves easing. Tasha joined her, her expression softening. "He fits in better than I expected," she said. "But his world, those headlines, that money, is a lot, Nia. You sure you're ready for it?" Nia sighed, her gaze on James, laughing with Malik. "I'm not sure of anything. He's different, though. Not what I thought a guy like him would be." Tasha nodded, her eyes distant. "I thought that about my first boyfriend, too. He was a doctor, all charm, till he bailed when things got real. Broke my heart before I met Derek." Her voice was warning, but she also trusted Nia's judgment. "Just be careful, okay? You're falling for him, I can tell." Nia didn't deny it. Her heart caught between hope and caution. James's world was glitz and scrutiny. Hers was this: family, warmth, simplicity. Could they bridge that gap? Back inside, dessert was a homemade peach cobbler, Tasha's specialty. James complimented it sincerely, earning Tasha a pleased smile. Derek asked about Whitaker Enterprises, not fawning, but genuinely curious about James's green energy projects. James spoke passionately, surprising himself with how much he enjoyed the conversation. Derek said that your foundation sounds like Nia's thing, glancing at his sister-in-law. She's all about helping kids learn. Nia blushed, but James nodded. She's inspired me to get back to it, he said, his eyes meeting hers. As they cleared the table, Nia caught James studying a photo of her with her grandmother, the woman who'd raised her after her parents' death. She looks like you, James said softly. Same smile. Nia's throat tightened. She taught me always to do what's right, no matter what. James nodded, sensing the weight of her words. He wanted to be part of this world, not just a visitor, but the stares he'd noticed at the coffee shop lingered in his mind. Subtle reminders of the differences between them. When it was time to leave, Zoe hugged James's legs, and Malik fist-bumped him. Malik said, "You're not bad, for a rich guy," grinning. Tasha pulled Nia aside, her voice low. "He's for real, isn't he?" Nia smiled, her heart full. Surprisingly, yeah. In the car, James was quiet and thoughtful. "Your family's fantastic," he said finally. "It's so alive. Mine's never been like that." Nia reached for his hand. "You're welcome back any time." James squeezed her hand, his resolve hardening. This fragile but real connection was worth fighting for, no matter what his world threw at them. The glittering ballroom of the Waldorf Astoria buzzed with New York's elite, their jewels sparkling under chandeliers as they mingled for a charity gala supporting arts education. James Whitaker, impeccable in a tailored tuxedo, stood at the entrance, his hand resting lightly on Nia Carter's arm. She wore an emerald green gown, its cap sleeves and modest neckline accentuating her poise, though her heart raced with unease. The dress, chosen with Claire's help at an exclusive boutique, felt like a costume, its price tag more than her yearly rent. "Just stay close," James murmured, sensing her nerves. "You're the realest person here." Nia nodded, her event coordinator's instincts kicking in. She'd managed galas like this for years, directing staff and troubleshooting crises behind the scenes. She was on the other side tonight, a guest in a world that felt foreign. The boutique visit had been daunting. Racks of gowns with astronomical costs, sales staff eyeing her curiously. But Claire, James's sharp-witted assistant, had eased her discomfort. "Ignore the price tags," Claire had said, grinning. "James wants you to feel like you. This one's perfect." The emerald dress hugged Nia's frame, its elegance understated, but she felt exposed standing among Manhattan's socialites. As they entered, heads turned, whispers trailing them like a breeze. James's mother, Evelyn Whitaker, approached, her silver hair swept into an elegant chignon, her pale blue suit radiating authority. "James, darling," she said, air-kissing his cheeks, her eyes sweeping Nia with cool appraisal. "And you must be Nia." Her tone was polite, but distant, like a gatekeeper assessing an outsider. "Pleasure to meet you, Mrs. Whitaker," Nia said, extending a hand, her voice steady despite the sting of Evelyn's gaze. James interjected smoothly, and Nia coordinated events like this. "She's the one who makes them flawless." Evelyn's smile tightened. "How charming. Do enjoy the evening." The brief exchange left Nia unsettled, but she squared her shoulders, drawing on her years of handling demanding clients. James handed her a glass of champagne at the bar, his fingers brushing hers reassuringly. "She'll warm up," he said. "She's just protective." Nia managed a smile. "I know the type. I've wrangled enough society matrons to spot one." James laughed, the sound easing the tension, but the weight of curious stares lingered. Couples nearby whispered, their glances darting between James's polished demeanor and Nia's unfamiliar presence. The crowd parted, and Sophia Langley approached, stunning in a red gown that screamed confidence. Beside her stood Ethan Caldwell, her new fiancé, his gray tuxedo sharp, but his smile smug. "James," Sophia said, her voice dripping with artificial warmth. "So glad you could make it." Her eyes flicked to Nia, sharp and assessing. "And you are?" "Nia Carter," Nia replied, shaking Sophia's hand firmly. "Nice to meet you." Sophia's smile didn't reach her eyes. "Congratulations on your engagement," James said coolly. "The timing's interesting." Sophia's expression faltered, but she recovered. "When you know, you know. Enjoy your evening." As Sophia and Ethan moved on, Nia caught Sophia's loud whisper to Ethan. "Poor James, rebounding with the help." James's jaw clenched, but Nia touched his arm. "Let it go," she said softly. "She's not worth it." Her calm steadied him, though the insult burned. They mingled, James introducing Nia to colleagues who ranged from genuinely warm to politely curious. Nia held her own, drawing on her event experience to discuss the gala's logistics with a board member, her knowledge earning a nod of respect. "You've got a knack for this," the man said. "Ever thought of running these events full-time?" Nia smiled. "I prefer teaching kids, but I've got the chaos of galas down to a science." During a lull, Nia excused herself to the restroom, needing a moment to breathe. Sophia entered with two women inside, her presence like a storm cloud. "Oh, Nia," Sophia said, feigning surprise. "These events can be so overwhelming when you're not used to them." Her tone dripped with condescension, her friends smirking. Nia straightened, her coordinator's poise kicking in. "I coordinate events like this for a living," she said evenly. "I usually make sure the champagne flows and the band plays on time. I'm not intimidated." Sophia's eyes narrowed. "How sweet. And now James has you in the spotlight. Must be thrilling." Her voice lowered, cutting. "But men like him don't keep friends like you for long. You're a distraction, a way to save face after I left him." Nia held her gaze, refusing to flinch. "If I'm a distraction, why are you so worried about me?" Sophia's smile froze, her friends exchanging glances. Without another word, Nia walked out, her heart pounding but her head high. Back at the table, James sensed her tension. "What happened?" he asked, his voice low. "Just a chat with your ex," Nia said, forcing a smile. "She thinks I'm a phase." James's expression darkened. "She's wrong. You're the only real thing here." He took her hand, guiding her to the dance floor. As they swayed to a slow melody, his hand on her back felt protective, grounding. The room's whispers faded, but Nia's doubts lingered. Could she belong in this world of scrutiny and status? James's eyes, warm and steady, suggested she didn't have to. She just had to be with him. James Whitaker strode into the glass-walled conference room of Whitaker Enterprises, his tailored suit a shield against the unease gnawing at him. The board members, a mix of seasoned executives and family loyalists, sat around the polished table, their expressions guarded. The fallout from Sophia Langley's engagement to Ethan Caldwell, CEO of Caldwell Global, had spilled beyond gossip columns into the corporate arena. Claire, James's assistant, leaned in as he took his seat. "Ethan's on the move," she whispered. Ecotech's wavering. Boards spooked. James nodded, his jaw tight. The charity gala had exposed his vulnerability. Now, his business was under siege. Ecotech, a renewable energy startup, was Whitaker Enterprises' key acquisition target, a move to dominate the green energy market. James had championed it for months, discussing its potential with Sophia during late-night dinners, her interest seeming supportive then. "It's your legacy," she'd said, her smile convincing. Now, as Claire relayed Ethan's call claiming Ecotech's allegiance had shifted, James saw her betrayal in a new light. Sophia hadn't just left him at the altar. She'd armed Ethan with his strategies. "They're citing concerns about our stability," Claire added. "Your personal life's the subtext." Across town, Nia Carter sat in a community college classroom, her notebook open to education theory notes. Her focus drifted to the gala, where Sophia's cutting words, a distraction, still stung. A classmate's phone buzzed, flashing a gossip site headline: "Whitaker's rebound. Event staffer threatens billionaire's empire." Nia's stomach dropped. The article, thin on facts, painted her as a gold digger exploiting James's heartbreak. Whispers rippled through the room, her peers glancing her way. Her professor, Dr. Hayes, approached after class. "Everything okay, Nia? This publicity can't be easy." Nia forced a smile. "It's just noise. I'm fine." But the scrutiny felt suffocating. Back at Whitaker Enterprises, the board meeting grew tense. Richard Harmon, a senior member and friend of James's late father, cleared his throat. "The tabloids are one thing, James, but Ecotech's hesitation is troubling. Investors are jittery about leadership focus." James leaned forward, his voice steady. "My focus is sharper than ever. Ecotech's concerns are baseless, and I suspect they are engineered." He outlined Ethan's tactics, noting how Caldwell Global lacked Whitaker's green energy expertise. "This is a smear campaign, not a business decision." A younger board member, skeptical, pressed, "The optics of your new relationship aren't helping. It's unconventional." James's eyes narrowed. "My personal life doesn't dictate my judgment. Ecotech's tech aligns with our vision. I'll meet their CEO tomorrow and revise our offer." The room quieted, Richard nodding approval. "Do what you do best, James. Prove them wrong." As the meeting adjourned, James's resolve hardened. Sophia and Ethan targeted his heart and empire, but he wouldn't let them win. That evening, James drove to Nia's Queen's apartment, needing her perspective. She greeted him at the door, her braid loose, her sweatshirt and jeans contrasting with the gala's glamour. "Bad day?" she asked, reading his tension. They sat on her cozy sofa, surrounded by textbooks and family photos. James explained the Ecotech crisis, his voice tight. "Ethan's using my breakup with Sophia against me. I told her about Ecotech, including strategies and timelines. She's feeding him ammunition." Nia's eyes widened. "That's low, even for her." Nia shared her day, and the article's sting was still fresh. "My classmates were whispering, and my professor was worried I was distracted. I've worked too hard for this degree to be seen as some headline." James took her hand, his touch grounding. "You're not a headline to me. You're Nia, the woman who makes kids believe in themselves." Nia smiled, but her doubts lingered. "Your world's bleeding into mine, James. It's not just about us anymore." They moved to her small kitchen, where Nia brewed coffee in her ancient machine. She instructed to press the button twice, then jiggle the cord, amused as James fumbled. The normalcy of the moment eased their tension. "You should fight for Ecotech," Nia said, leaning against the counter. "Show them you're not shaken. I've seen you talk about your foundation. You're passionate, focused. That's who you are, not what they're saying." James nodded, her words igniting a spark. "You're right. I'll up our offer and meet their CEO face to face. No more playing defense." Nia hesitated, then spoke softly. "But what if I'm part of the problem? The board, the headlines. They're using me to question you." James stepped closer, his eyes intense. "This isn't your fault. It's Sophia and Ethan playing dirty. Don't let them get in your head." He pulled her into a hug, her warmth steadying him. "We're in this together, okay?" Nia nodded against his chest, her fears easing but not gone. Their worlds were colliding. and the fallout was testing them both. As James drove back to Manhattan, he replayed Nia's encouragement. She saw him, not the billionaire, but the man fighting for something real. He'd secure Ecotech, not just for his company, but to prove their love could withstand the storm. Alone in her apartment, Nia stared at her laptop, the gossip article still open. She closed it, resolute. She'd face the whispers, keep teaching, keep believing in James. But deep down, she wondered if love could outlast a world determined to tear them apart. Nia Carter's small Queens apartment was a haven of warmth, its walls lined with family photos and shelves brimming with educational textbooks. The late afternoon light filtered through her curtains as she prepared for a tutoring session with Tommy Harmon, her dyslexic student whose progress fueled her teaching dreams. Her phone lay silent, but the sting of the gossip article from her college classroom lingered, its words, gold digger, rebound, echoing in her mind. She pushed the thoughts aside, focusing on her lesson plan, determined to keep her world intact, despite the chaos spilling from James Whitaker's. A sharp knock at the door startled her. Peering through the peephole, Nia's breath caught. Sophia Langley stood in the hallway, her designer coat and flawless makeup a jarring contrast to the modest building. Nia hesitated, her instincts screaming caution, but curiosity won out. She opened the door, her expression guarded. "Sophia, this is unexpected." Sophia's smile was thin, her blue eyes calculating. "May I come in? We need to talk." Against her better judgment, Nia stepped aside, her heart pounding. Sophia's gaze swept over the apartment, cozy but straightforward, with a worn sofa and a stack of graded papers on the table. Her lips curled slightly, a hint of disdain. "I'll be direct," she said, opening her purse and pulling out a checkbook. "How much will it take for you to leave James alone?" 1 million. 2. Nia stared, shock rooting her in place. "You're serious?" she asked, her voice steady despite her rising anger. Sophia nodded coolly. "Entirely. James is making a mistake that's costing him professionally. I'm offering you a chance to walk away with your future secure." Nia's hands clenched, her grandmother's lessons on dignity flashing through her mind. "I'm not for sale," she said, her tone icy, "and I'm not discussing my relationship with you." Sophia's smile didn't waver. "Relationship? You're a phase, Nia. A rebellion against everything he's built. He'll tire of you when his ego recovers from my leaving him." Her words struck a nerve, echoing Nia's fears about fitting into James's world. "You don't know him," Nia countered, her voice firm. "If you did, you wouldn't have left him at the altar." A flicker of something, regret, perhaps, crossed Sophia's face, but she quickly masked it. "That was a miscalculation," she admitted. "One, I'm correcting. James's relationship with you is destabilizing Whitaker Enterprises. The board's discussing replacing him as CEO. Ask his mother if you don't believe me." She wrote a $2 million check and placed it on the coffee table. "This could pay off your student loans, buy a home, and let you teach without worry. Think about it. The offer stands for 48 hours. Nia's hands trembled as Sophia walked out, her heels clicking on the hardwood. She stared at the check, its amount staggering. Her grandmother's voice echoed, "Money doesn't buy integrity." With a sharp motion, she tore the check into pieces, tossing them into the trash. But Sophia's words clung to her, sowing doubt. Was she truly harming James's legacy? The thought was unbearable, yet her connection with him, honest, unguarded, fought against her fears. Needing perspective, Nia called her sister, Tasha, who arrived within the hour, her nurse's scrubs still on from a long shift. Over coffee, Nia recounted Sophia's visit, her voice shaking. Tasha's eyes widened. She offered you $2 million? That's bold, even for a snake like her. Nia nodded, her fingers tracing the rim of her mug. She said, I'm ruining James's company and his reputation. What if she's right, Tasha? His world's so different. Maybe I don't belong. Tasha leaned forward, her gaze fierce. Listen, I've been where you are. My first love. That doctor? He promised the world, then bailed when I needed him most. Broke me for a while. But James? He's showing up, Nia. He's real. Don't let that woman poison what you've got. Nia absorbed her sister's words, Tasha's past heartbreak lending weight to her advice. Later, at her tutoring session, Nia watched Tommy read a sentence flawlessly, his grin lighting up the room. I did it, Miss Carter, he cheered. Her heart swelled, her purpose clear. Teaching was her anchor, a reminder of who she was beyond the headlines. Yet Sophia's threat loomed, tying her love for James to his professional survival. She couldn't ignore the stakes. Back at her apartment, Nia's phone buzzed with a text from James. Board meeting went well, but Ecotech's still shaky. Can I see you? Need your clarity. She hesitated, Sophia's words echoing. Her feelings for James were undeniable. His warmth, his vulnerability. But the cost of their relationship was growing. She dialed his number, her voice urgent. James, we need to talk. Tonight. The tremor in her tone alarmed him. I'll be there in 20, he promised. As she waited, pacing her living room, Nia grappled with a choice. Hold on to love or protect James from a world that seemed determined to tear them apart. Nia Carter paced her queen's apartment, the torn pieces of Sophia Langley's $2 million check scattered in the trash can like confetti from a broken dream. Her heart raced, Sophia's words echoing. You're destabilizing his empire. The cozy space, with its family photos and worn textbooks, felt like a fragile shield against the storm brewing in James Whitaker's world. She'd called him, her voice trembling with urgency, and now she waited, grappling with a choice that threatened to unravel everything. Could she love James without costing him his legacy? The question gnawed at her as the doorbell rang. James stood in the hallway, his dark sweater rumpled from the drive, his blue eyes wide with concern. Nia, what's wrong? He asked, stepping inside as she closed the door. His presence filled the small living room, steady yet anxious. Nia gestured to the trash can, her voice shaking. Sophia was here an hour ago. She offered me $2 million to leave you. James's face darkened, his fists clenching. She what? I'll sue her for harassment. That's not all, Nia interrupted, her eyes glistening. She said the board's considering replacing you as CEO because of me, because our relationship is hurting your company. James ran a hand through his hair, frustration etching his features. That's not happening. The board can't remove me without cause, and who I date isn't cause. His voice was firm, but Nia's doubts spilled over. What if she's right, James? Your mother thinks I'm a risk. The headlines call me a gold digger. Your business associates question your judgment. I'm scared I'm dragging you down. Her voice broke, tears spilling down her cheeks. I don't want to end this, but I don't see how it works. Our worlds are too different. James stepped closer, his hands gently grasping her shoulders. The only opinion that matters is mine, Nia. I choose you. I love you. The words hung between them, raw and unguarded. Nia's breath caught, her heart aching with the weight of his confession. I love you too, she whispered, tears streaming faster. That's why this hurts so much. Your company employs thousands. Your father built it from nothing. I can't be the reason it suffers." James led her to the sofa, sitting beside her, his hands never leaving hers. "Listen to me," he said, his voice fierce with conviction. "My father worked himself to death for Whitaker Enterprises. On his deathbed, he told me he regretted not taking more vacations, not living more. I don't want that to be me, Nia. I don't want to lose you because of what others think." His words stirred a memory in Nia, her parents' car accident when she was 10, leaving her with her grandmother's fierce love and lessons of resilience. "I lost my parents young," she said softly, her voice trembling. "My grandmother raised me and worked 2 jobs to keep me in school. She taught me to stand up for what matters. But I'm scared, James. Scared of losing you. Scared of hurting you." James's eyes softened, his thumb brushing a tear from her cheek. "You're not hurting me. You're saving me." With Sophia, everything was a performance. Galas, status, deals. With you, I'm just James. I haven't felt that in years. Nia's resolve wavered, her fears clashing with the warmth of his words. "But the pressure," she said. "The media, the board, your mother. It won't stop." James shook his head. "It will. We'll weather it together. I'd rather lose my company than lose you, Nia. It's not just about me. It's about us." Nia's heart pounded, the depth of his commitment shaking her. She thought of her grandmother's strength, how she'd faced hardship without flinching. She said, "I've always fought for what I believe in," her voice steadier. "Teaching, my family, my dreams. But this, us, it's bigger than anything I've faced." James squeezed her hands. "Then we face it together. No more running." His eyes held no doubt, only love, and Nia felt her fears begin to crack. She leaned into him, her head resting against his chest. She admitted, "I don't want to break up," her voice muffled. "But I need us to go slow. This is all so much." James nodded, his arms wrapping around her. "Slow it is. Whatever you need, Nia. Just don't shut me out." They sat in silence, the hum of Queens outside a reminder of her world, so different from his. Yet in that moment, their differences felt surmountable, their love a bridge strong enough to hold. As James kissed her forehead, Nia let herself believe they could endure. Sophia's bribe, the board's doubts, and the world's scrutiny were real, but so was the man holding her. "We'll figure it out," she murmured, her voice soft but resolute. James smiled, his heart lighter. "Together," he said. But as they held each other, Nia's mind flickered to the torn check, symbolizing the storm still gathering. She loved James, but the cost of that love was a question only time could answer. James Whitaker stood at the head of the sleek conference table at Whitaker Enterprises, the Manhattan skyline framed through the floor-to-ceiling windows. The board members, a mix of loyalists and skeptics, shifted in their seats, the air thick with tension. Sophia Langley's bribe to Nia Carter and Ethan Caldwell's sabotage of the Ecotech deal had ignited a fire in James. He'd spent years playing by the rules of his elite world. But now, with Nia's love grounding him, he was done bowing to external pressures. "Thank you for coming on short notice," he began, his voice steady. "We're here to address rumors about my leadership and this company's future." The previous night's confrontation with Nia had solidified his resolve. Her tearful fear that their relationship was harming his legacy had shaken him. But her decision to stay, to fight alongside him, fueled his determination. He'd scheduled an emergency board meeting and a face-to-face with Ecotech's CEO, Martin Wells, to counter Ethan's smear campaign. Claire, his assistant, slid him a file with the revised Ecotech proposal, her nod reassuring. "You've got this," she mouthed. James opened the file, and his plan was clear. Reclaiming control, protecting his company, and proving his love for Nia was no liability. Richard Harmon, the senior board member and a friend of James's late father, spoke first. James, the ecotech hesitation is concerning. The tabloid noise rattles investors. James met his gaze. The noise is just that. Ethan Caldwell is spreading lies about our stability, using my personal life as leverage. But I've met with Martin Wells. He slid copies of a document across the table. This is a preliminary agreement, signed this morning. Ecotech's ours, with a 10% improved offer, not the 15 I proposed. They reconsidered after I exposed Caldwell's unethical tactics. Murmurs rippled through the room, surprise softening the skeptic's expressions. A younger board member, still wary, asked, "What about the optics? Your relationship with Ms. Carter is unconventional." James's eyes flashed. My relationship with Nia doesn't impair my judgment. It strengthens it. She's intelligent and kind, and reminds me why I started this company. To make a difference, not just make profits. Richard leaned forward, his voice warm. I know Nia. She's been tutoring my grandson Tommy for a year and helped him conquer dyslexia. She's exceptional, and anyone questioning her impact on James should rethink their priorities. The room stilled, Richard's endorsement carrying weight. James seized the moment. Whitaker Enterprises thrives on integrity and innovation. If my dating a woman of character threatens that, we're the ones who need to change. Nods of agreement followed, the tide turning. By the meeting's end, the board approved a bold expansion of the green energy division, with ecotech at its core. James felt a triumph, not just for the deal, but for defending Nia. Later, in his office, James took a call from Ethan Caldwell, whose voice dripped with fury. You stole ecotech right from under us, Whitaker. James leaned back, calm. I presented facts. Your misinformation about our stability. Your use of Sophia's lies. Oh, and her bribe to Nia? We have the torn check, and her signature is unmistakable. Nia's ready to testify. Ethan's silence was telling. Here's the deal, James continued. You and Sophia, back off. No more leaks, no more sabotage. Or I pursue legal action for corporate espionage. After a tense pause, Ethan muttered agreement and hung up. James's phone buzzed with a text from his mother. Evelyn. Richard called. The board meeting was impressive. Dinner tonight, 7 o'clock. Bring Nia. He blinked, stunned. Evelyn had been skeptical at the gala, but Richard's praise of Nia shifted her perspective. James texted Nia between her college classes. Board is on our side. Ecotech secured. Mom wants us for dinner. You in? Her reply was swift. Wow, that's big. Dinner sounds intense, but I'm in. Also, Tommy aced a reading quiz today. James smiled, her pride in her student infectious. He called her, needing to hear her voice. Nia, you were right, he said. Fighting for ecotech, standing up for us. It worked. Even my mother's coming around. Nia's laugh was warm, but cautious. That's huge, James. But dinner with Evelyn? I'll need my game face. He chuckled. Just be you. That's more than enough. Nia paused. It's weird to know Richard's your board member. I've been helping Tommy for months, but never connected the dots. James grinned. Small world. Richard's vouching for you changed everything. As James left his office, the city lights twinkling below, he felt lighter than he had in weeks. Nia's belief in him, her strength in rejecting Sophia's bribe, had anchored him. The board's support, Richard's unexpected tie to Nia, and even Evelyn's olive branch signaled a turning point. Nia, meanwhile, sat in her classroom, her mind drifting from her lecture to James's victory. Their love was still a gamble, but it felt like one worth taking today. She gathered her books, ready for dinner, determined to face Evelyn's world as herself. The Upper East Side mansion of Evelyn Whitaker loomed grandly, its stone facade and manicured gardens a testament to the Whitaker legacy. Inside, the formal dining room glowed with candlelight, its long mahogany table set with fine china. In a borrowed navy dress from her sister Tasha, Nia Carter felt a flutter of nerves as she sat beside James Whitaker. His hand brushed hers under the table, a quiet reassurance. Evelyn, elegant in a cream suit, raised a glass of wine. "To new beginnings," she said, her smile warmer than at the gala. Nia returned it, sensing a shift in the woman who'd once viewed her as an outsider. Dinner began tensely, the clink of silverware loud in the silence. Nia drew on her event coordination experience, her poise honed from managing high-pressure galas. "Mrs. Whitaker, the table setting is flawless," she said, her tone genuine. "Reminds me of the ones I've planned, though I'm usually wrangling caterers, not guests." Evelyn's eyes lit up. "You've an eye for detail. My mother, a teacher, always said precision matters, whether in a classroom or at home." Nia nodded, surprised. "My grandmother said the same. She taught me to pour love into everything, from lesson plans to family dinners." Their shared passion for education broke the ice. Evelyn revealed her mother's teaching career, a history James hadn't known. Evelyn said she worked in a rural school, shaping young minds. "It's why I support educational charities." Nia leaned forward, her confidence growing. "That's inspiring. I've tutored kids like Tommy Harmon, helping them find their spark. I'd love to hear about your charity work." James watched, amazed, as the two women bonded over school reform. Nia's insights from her studies earned Evelyn's respect. By dessert, they planned a joint visit to a Davenport Foundation event, Nia offering to streamline its logistics. As James and Nia left the mansion, he squeezed her hand. "You won her over," he said, his voice warm with pride. Nia laughed. "We found common ground. Education is universal." James kissed her hand, his eyes soft. "It's more than that. She sees you, Nia, the real you." Nia's heart swelled, her doubts about fitting into his world fading. Evelyn's acceptance felt like a bridge between their lives, one they built together. Over the next few months, James and Nia wove their worlds into a shared tapestry. James cut back his grueling work hours, joining Nia for family dinners in Queens, where Tasha's kids, Zoe and Malik, treated him like an uncle. Nia, meanwhile, grew bolder in James's circles. She coordinated a seamless program at a charity auction, her expertise impressing James's colleagues. "You're a natural," one said, offering her a consultancy role. Nia smiled. "I'm happy teaching, but I'll keep your events running like clockwork." Her confidence shone, a stark contrast to her gala unease. The media frenzy faded, and the headlines about Nia as a gold digger were replaced by fleeting photos of them at grocery stores or Nia's school events. Humbled by their rushed divorce, Sophia Langley and Ethan Caldwell vanished from the spotlight, their schemes irrelevant. James felt a weight lift. Their betrayal no longer defined his life. Nia, too, found peace. Her classroom a sanctuary where her students' progress, like Tommy's reading gains, grounded her. James invited Nia to his Hamptons beach house one June evening, a retreat he rarely used. The ocean breeze was gentle, the sand warm under their feet as they walked along the shore. Nia laughed, splashing water at him. "You're loosening up, Whitaker. No tie, no stress." James grinned, his heart full. They reached a secluded cove, the sunset painting the sky in hues of pink and gold. He stopped, his expression turning serious. "Nia," he said, his voice low. These months with you have been the happiest of my life. Nia's breath caught, sensing the moment's weight. James took her hands, his eyes unwavering. When Sophia left me, I thought my story ended. You showed me it was just beginning. You've taught me what love is, not status, not deals, but this. He knelt, pulling a velvet box from his pocket. Inside was a solitaire diamond ring, elegant and straightforward. Perfectly Nia. I'm not proposing because it's expected or logical. I'm proposing because I can't imagine my life without you. Nia Carter, will you marry me? Tears filled Nia's eyes, her heart racing. She'd feared his world, its scrutiny and rules. But standing here, she saw only James, the man who loved her for her heart, dreams, and strength. She whispered, then louder, "Yes, James, I will." He slipped the ring onto her finger, standing to kiss her, the ocean's roar a backdrop to their promise. As they held each other, Nia felt certain. Their love, built on respect and resilience, could bridge any divide. Their shared world was no longer a dream, but theirs to live in. The beachside chapel in the Hamptons glowed under the soft June sunlight, its whitewashed walls adorned with simple garlands of white roses. Nia Carter stood in a small dressing room, her reflection in the mirror, a vision in an ivory gown, its elegant lines hugging her frame without ostentation. A delicate pearl hairpin, a gift from James Whitaker, nestled in her updo, symbolizing the acceptance she'd earned. Her sister, Tasha, adjusted the veil, tears glistening in her eyes. "You look like a dream, Nia," she said, her voice thick. "James is gonna lose it when he sees you." Nia smiled, nerves dancing in her stomach. "I hope so. This still feels surreal." The past year had transformed Nia's life. From a chance encounter with a heartbroken James at his failed wedding to this moment, their love had bridged worlds she'd once thought irreconcilable. Her teaching career, now full-time at a local elementary school, had flourished, her students' progress, like Tommy Harmon's reading triumphs, filling her with purpose. Today, those students sat in the chapel's pews, their excited whispers mingling with the hum of guests. Tasha grinned. "Your kids are out there, waving like it's a field trip." Even Sophia showed up, looking like she swallowed a lemon. Nia laughed. "She's here? Bold move." Evelyn entered, elegant in a pale blue suit, her warmth a far cry from their tense gala meeting. "You're stunning, my dear," she said, embracing Nia. "I have something for you." She handed Nia a small box containing her mother's pearl hairpin, a teacher's heirloom. "She'd have loved your spirit." Nia's throat tightened as Tasha secured the pin. "I'm honored," she said, touched by Evelyn's gesture. Their shared passion for education had forged a bond, with Evelyn now a major donor to Nia's school. "Let's get you married," Evelyn said, her smile genuine. The chapel doors opened, and the soft strains of a violin filled the air. James's best friend, Michael, stood ready to walk Nia down the aisle, a stand-in for the father she'd lost. "James is one lucky guy," he said, offering his arm. Nia took a deep breath, her heart steadying. "We're both lucky," she replied. The pews were filled with their blended worlds. Nia's students and colleagues, James's business associates, Tasha's family, and Evelyn's charity allies. In the back, Sophia sat, her red dress stark, her expression subdued. Nia barely noticed, her eyes locking on James at the altar. James stood tall in his tuxedo, his blue eyes shining with joy. As Nia approached, his breath caught, his smile radiant. Michael placed her hand in James's, whispering, "You two were meant for each other." James squeezed her hand, his voice low. "You're beautiful, Nia." The ceremony was simple, their vows heartfelt. James spoke first, his voice strong. "A year ago, I thought love was a checklist. Status, plans, perfection. You showed me it's about truth. Nia, you turned my darkest day into my greatest gift. I promise to love you, support your dreams, and build a life where we belong." Nia's voice trembled, but her words were clear. "James, I thought our worlds were too far apart to meet. You proved me wrong. You see me, my heart, my hopes, and you've made me braver. I promise to stand by you, challenge you, and love you through every storm." As they exchanged rings, the chapel erupted in applause, Nia's students cheering loudest. The officiant pronounced them husband and wife, and James kissed her, the world fading to just them. The reception unfolded on the beach behind their Hamptons home, twinkling lights strung above tables set with wildflowers. Guests danced barefoot in the sand, a joyful mix of Nia's school community and James's elite circle. Evelyn raised a glass, her toast surprising all. "When James was young, I told him, love is when you can't imagine life without someone. Today, I see that in him and Nia. Their love is a story written in the stars, defying every obstacle." Nia's eyes misted, James's hand squeezing hers. Later, under a canopy of stars, they danced, Nia's head against James's chest. "Happy?" he asked, his voice soft. "More than I ever dreamed," she replied. "When you were left at that altar, I never imagined this." James smiled, twirling her gently. "I'm grateful for it. Sophia's exit led me to you." Nia laughed. "Should we send her a thank you note?" James grinned. "Our happiness is enough." Sophia, watching from a distance, slipped away, her presence irrelevant to their joy. As the night wound down, Nia caught Tommy Harmon high-fiving Malik, her worlds united. "We did it," she whispered to James. "We built our world." He kissed her forehead. "And it's just the beginning." The ocean whispered behind them, the sky ablaze with stars, a perfect canvas for a love that had conquered all, a love meant to be.